それではこれより KGAP プラス特別セッション KGAP プラスサミット2024グローバル R&D インキュベーターサミットを開催いたします。ここからの進行は株式会社国際電気通信基礎技術研究所経営企画イノベーション競争部担当部長辰巳真紀子様にお願いいたします。
はい、ご紹介に預かりました ATR の辰巳でございます。本日 MC 務めさせていただきます。まずですね、サミットに先立ちまして、本日、覚書の調印式を行いたいと思っております。ご紹介いたします。奈良先端科学技術大学院大学と、国際電気通信基礎技術研究所における覚書の締結でございます。両機関を紹介させていただきます。奈良先端科学技術大学院大学NICEとは、最先端の研究に基づく教育理念のもとに1991年に設立された、大学院のみからなるユニークな最も新しい国立大学でございます。情報科学、バイオサイエンス、物性創生科学、そしてデータサイエンスやデジタルグリーンイノベーションなどの新しい分野融合研究と柔軟な教育プログラムを推進しており、学生の約 25% が海外からの留学生です。NICEとはグローバルな卒業生ネットワークや提携機関との競争を通じて国内外での科学技術を発展を目指しております。一方、国際電気通信基礎技術研究所 ATR は京阪奈の学研都市の中間機関として共に極め明日の社会を開くを基本理念に掲げ、他機関との共同や人材交流とともに国際的見地に立ち、脳情報科学、深層インタラクション、無線通信、生命科学分野の先駆的研究とイノベーション創出で科学技術に取り組んでおります。そして、世界中の大学教育研究機関、イノベーション推進機関と連携し、研究機関の視点で京阪奈グローバルイノベーションネットワークエコシステムの構築に発展に寄与しております。この両機関ですけれども、2009年2月に情報通信技術分野などにおける相互協力における包括協定書を結んでおります。これに基づきまして本日研究成果などを地域社会へより円滑に還元し、また情報交換を行うことで地域社会の発展に貢献することを目的としてイノベーション創出のための連携に関する覚書を締結いたします。はい、では、学長様ですね、NICEの学長様、塩崎学長様、あと ATR の代表取締役副社長鈴木の方で署名をお願いいたします。はい、ありがとうございます。おめでとうございます。はい、そうしましたら写真撮影いたしますので、両方掲げていただきまして、お二人、はい、よいしょ、はい、ありがとうございます。では握手をお願いいたします。はい。両側に世界中の大学、あと研究機関の皆様、パネリストで入っております。皆様、立ち会い人でございます。You are the witness, so please stand up and yeah, take a group photo, okay? はい。あと今日会場にはスタートアップの皆さんもたくさんいらっしゃいます。関係者の皆さんも皆さんウィットですね。Okay, great. Wow, wonderful. りがとうございます。Thank you very much. Alright. Yes. 少しお待ちください。プレゼン、私のところでスライドクリックします。スライドクリックが一つ。これを回したらいいか。OK、ここから英語でやりたいと思います。Let's get started about the KGAP Plus Summit 2024, Global R&D Incubator Summit with a great panelist. So from now on, the moderator will proceed panel for you. So Dr. Hiroyuki Suzuki, he's Executive Vice President of ATL, will be the moderator of this panel.
Okay. Thank you, Max-san. So today we have very precious panelists here with us, and we are very pleased to have this great opportunity, KGAP Summit 2024. So let me first introduce the background of this summit. Okay. So this is an introduction of myself. Just I would like to say I do a lot of things, play many roles. And the reason why we plan to do this type of a summit is that there are many good things by doing so. So we select the theme of this KGAP Summit this year, Global R&D Incubator Summit. So this contributes to the first to the world and also to the Kansai City and Kansai and even Japan, and also for ATL. So we started 7 years ago, the construction of a global innovation collaboration network. Now the network is expanding over 1,100 partners, including over 480 overseas companies. What we found during this construction period of time is that the science and technology innovation is a key to many things, promote economic growth, solve social issues, improve quality of life, and achieve sustainable society. And also, we found that these issues are a common issue worldwide. Okay, not only the issues of Japan, but also issues of worldwide. So we need to collaborate to fasten and tackle more efficiently in terms of time and maybe cost. The second thing we select the theme this year is that we will have 2 EXPO next year, Osaka Kansai Expo, as well as Keihana Expo. That will be held on the same timeline during the April and October. And we are contributing a variety of things for these 2 expos in terms of R&D and in terms of startups. And we are very glad that the Kansai City was selected as the post-expo city, and in which we need to implement quickly social issues, the outcomes of 2 expos. So we need to the way to achieve that. And one of the examples of the outcome is innovative technologies. So, okay, the third reason why we select the theme is ATL reformulated new CI principle last year, which is together to the top for future society. Of course, ATL is a research institute, specializing in basic science. So we want to be a top, with which we are specializing in. But also, we should be responsible for implementation of research outcome to the society. Okay, so that's the reason why this theme is very important for ATR. So one of the ways to implement deep tech, a basic research outcome to society, is to construct this type of a global deep tech innovation network, composed of 3 types of network. The first one is R&D network, and then the global university network, and the acceleration program. The most important thing in these 3 networks is, of course, I think, is incubation network, because this overcomes the death valley, for instance. And also, not only to implement research outcome in technological perspective, but also new technology must be adapted by people living here and accepted living here. So also, we need to harmonize non-uniformity and diversity with innovation. Normally, innovation is evaluated on one line, but we, at least here in Kyoto and Kena Science City, the diversity is also very important in innovation. So that's the reason why we select six panelists from all over the world, comprising Global University Incubator Network. And also, they are coming from all over the world. For instance, Dr. Felix, MOESNER coming from Swiss, and also Dr. Cheng, Professor Cheng, coming from Taiwan, NCKU, and Dr. Wael, he is now coming to this venue, coming from Egypt, Middle East and Africa, and of course, Professor SHIOZAKI coming from Kena Science City in Japan. So, and also Mr. Tobias, he has a different point of view as investors looking for deep tech in Kansai area. So we have diverse panelists coming all over the world. So with that, we can discuss how we can implement research outcome in society quite effectively. Okay, that's what we'd like to share with you in the beginning. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the next would be Professor SHIOZAKI. It's your turn to tell a bit about what you are doing.
Thank you very much. I'm Kazuhiro SHIOZAKI from the Nara Institute of Science and Technology in the Keihan Science City. Can I have our slide? Yeah, yes. So I'd like to briefly introduce our university. Well, the name is a little long, so we usually just call it NICE. And can you go back to the first slide? Yes, yeah. So NICE is a national postgraduate university, so with no undergraduate programs. And we focus on cutting-edge research and graduate education. And as it has been already introduced, NICE is located in the Keihan Science City, which spans prefectures of Kyoto, Osaka, and Nara, as everybody knows. And next slide, please. So NICE, when established originally in 1991, NICE consisted of 3 different graduate schools in information science, biological science, and material science. And in 2018, we integrated those 3 graduate schools into one, making the entire university, whole university, the Graduate School of Science and Technology to really promote interdisciplinary research and education. And next slide, please. So here are some numbers about NICE. We currently have a little less than 200 faculty members and over 1,000 students, of course, all graduate students. And about a quarter of students are from overseas. And NIST is part of a global academic network having cooperation agreements with 95 institutions in 25 different countries and regions, including NCKU. And among the 86 national universities in Japan, NIST is one of the only 2 universities that received the highest evaluation from the government for both research and education during the third midterm target period. Next slide, please. So I'd like to showcase some examples of research at NIST. And because of the time limitation, I have picked up only 3, just 3, which can lead to impact for innovation. First is Professor Shinya Yamanaka and his students at NIST developed induced pluripotent stem cell technology. And Professor Yamanaka was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology of Medicine in 2012. And this iPS cell technology is now opening up new possibilities for regenerative medicine. And next slide, please. I think this is the last one. And 2 more. On the left side of the slide, Professor Matsubara's laboratory at NIST developed AI software in collaboration with Yokogawa Company to automate the operation of a petrochemical plant. So they succeeded in running a chemical plant unattended for 35 consecutive days. And last year, this technological breakthrough won the Prime Minister's Award of Japan Industrial Technology Awards. And on the right side of the slide, Professor Demura's laboratory in plant biology, and his laboratory is developing poplar trees that glow in the dark. And they aim to reduce CO2 emissions by replacing street lamps with light-emitting trees that, of course, don't use electricity. And together with Professor Takeharu Nagai, Osaka University, Professor Demura has established a new startup company, LEP, for light-emitting plant. And that's it for now from me. Thank you very much.
So the next speaker is Professor Cheng from Taiwan and CKU.
Okay. My name is Weizhi Chuang. Currently, I'm Executive Vice President of National Cheng University. I was lucky to serve in the government for a few years. I found that university must have a transformation. So when I went back to our university, I want to establish, next please, with so-called innovation headquarters. So professor must do some innovative research. But the problem is, in Taiwan, most of the university did not have the good ecosystem. And one of the weaknesses is globalization. So this is the problem. How can we make it? So how can we merge talents, innovation, education, research, startups together? Next. So I established a new so-called innovation headquarters in our institute. So basically, as you can see here, of course, we have a knowledge translation and industrial liaison office. In particular, we want to work with the industry. And of course, we want to establish our startups. But please see, we want to have an international office to work with Japan, Canada, Swiss, different countries. Because most of the university in Taiwan, they only work with the local companies or local university. In order to have innovative technology, you have to work all the talents around the world. Next, please. And this is the results. As you can see here, before 2015, we only have few startups. And after 2016, every year, we have 10 to 20 startups from the universities. And I don't know about Japan. In Taiwan, most of the officers, they only work for faculties. And we found out students got talents, and they are more aggressive. They know how to adapt new technology. So this is the results. Now we have more startups from students. And in Taiwan, we have different pathway. In the old days, our graduates, they went to major companies in Taiwan. And after, I would say, 5 to 10 years, they want to become entrepreneur. We think, is it possible we can push them to go out earlier? Next, please. So I think this is our system here. Most of the startups did not have the resources. Now we work with the major companies such as Yageo, TSMC. Now they set up research labs or research center in our university. Initially, we have some trouble. PhD students, they stop study because they can get better salary from TSMC. So they stop their studies. And at the same time, most of the professors, they went to TSMC because they offer 3 times salaries. So, but the problem now, we see different results. Because we have programs with those major companies in Taiwan, now those graduates, they come back and get their PhD. At the same time, they can do the same research at company, so they can use their technology to get their PhD. And those professors went to those major companies. They come back because they know professors from our university. So in this case, we have more industrial collaboration. So in our university now, we have more than 20% research grants are from university, from those companies. So this is, of course, you have to have some disadvantage in earlier, but eventually you got advantage. Next, please. So we have to work with, global companies and global institutes, such as NRC. We have a long-term relationship with them. But the problem is students must face the world. So that's why we work with the Hong Kong Biotech and MyTechs. And at the same time, we get some government grants, okay? But in order to help startups, we have our own angel club to support it. In addition, our alumni, they have a VC, and school got VC to help our startups. Next, please. And I found that this forum is very important because people should work together. And we are lucky, okay, because we have many alliances, joint universities. So we need 11 universities to work with the companies. And we hope we can expand our alliance to international university and institute. I have to say that people should work together in order to speed up your technology. So I'm lucky to join this forum here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Cheng. So next speaker is Melanie from National Research Council of Canada. So please.
Thank you. And so yes, I'm Melanie Cullins with the National Research Council of Canada. And I'm the Director General responsible for our business, international, and challenge programs within our organization. So the National Research Council of Canada has a mandate to advance knowledge, to work through business innovation in Canada, and to work on priorities for Canada, which of course are often now priorities which are global in reality. We have 2 key roles. On the one hand, we have research institutes. So we perform R&D, and we invest about $600 million a year into research and development in emerging technologies. And so starting looking at quantum, AI, areas for which Canada is known, and areas in which we see a lot of startups at this point in time. And we are also doing work in life sciences and engineering, transportation, particularly in aeronautics, which is, again, one of our areas of strength. Within that space, we do about $180 million a year of business working with Canadian and foreign industry. And we're working with them through licensing, through technical services, and through research service agreements and collaboration, which I think is a theme we're going to come back to here today. So that's one of our hats. The second hat is we have the Industrial Research Innovation Program, which is essentially an innovation agency that works with and supports small, medium-sized enterprises in Canada. And for us, that's any company of under 500 people, which is well over 95% of the companies in Canada. And so with this program in particular, we have hired people from industry. Okay, we've gone out, we've found former CEOs, we've found former CTOs, we have found people who understand and are well experienced working with industry, so that when they work with the startups, when they work with our SMEs, they're able to communicate in that language, build the right networks, and provide useful advice for those companies as they are scaling. And maybe the third piece I'll touch on, which I think we'll come back to again, is our challenge programs. Because we're in a unique position of being both a research technology organization as well as an innovation agency, which is investing $400 million a year on top of that advice into our small, medium-sized companies, we're in a position to connect the dots on those ecosystems. So we've also put in place what we call our challenge programs. We're investing in 7-year programs in new and exciting areas. Okay, so for example, thinking about internetworking for quantum, looking at new ways of communicating, looking at a number of different programs related to new energy sources as we're moving forward. And within that space, a lot of what we're trying to do is to work with new startups, and these are in emerging areas where it is going to take time, and also help connect them to the research in universities in Canada, as well as our own research, and then into larger companies. So it's a pretty exciting place to play, and I think I would echo what we've heard, that really the strength NRC brings to the table is being able to convene all of those different players in the ecosystem, and then to bring that to an international lens as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Melanie-san. So the next speaker is Felix-san from Switzerland. He's a diplomat at Consul of in Osaka, and also CEO of Swissnex, acting as a kind of a connector with a strong science background. Okay, please let us know what you are doing.
Thank you very much, Suzuki-san, and I'm extremely happy to be here together with a very nice panel, and also hopefully we can contribute something to the discussions that will follow later. So just as a quick introduction, as just announced, we are Science Consulate, and I would like to start with a very brief personal background. As you see, I studied at ETH, was at Tokyo University and MIT. My background is in robotics, stayed a couple of years in the private sector, and since 20 years I'm in the government. And so first at the embassy in Tokyo, then in Boston for 5 years, and then in China for 4 years in Shanghai, and now here in the Kansai region for 3 years. So this as in a nutshell. So actually, we are as mentioned, we are the first science consulate in Japan, which is quite, for us, a quite important endeavor. As you see here on this slide, it has been actually already announced by a president. So the president of Switzerland came and announced it during the Olympics. Then President came again for the groundbreaking, so already this gives a lot of pressure to us to succeed, because it's very, very rare to have a president actually to launch a science consulate, or a consulate in this sense. Yeah, and so this is the grand opening. This is exactly, and that's why I wanted to have this picture, because it's 1 year ago. So we opened 1 year ago. We are 1 year old. And so what do we do? So we are in Osaka, at the main street. So I call it it's the 5th Avenue or the Champs-Élysées of Osaka. So we are located at this place. And we have big windows where we can display innovation, for example. So you see a little bit in action here. So here with a lot of startups that are displayed to a massive audience. So daily 10,000 people walking by. And actually what we do next to exhibiting something, so we connect talents, knowledge and ideas between Switzerland, Japan, and also very important around the world. And I come to this very soon. Actually there's a very fruitful environment, so where we connect startups, where we do academic relations, and where we do, and please hold your breath, art science, because you have to have something to connect. So our focus areas are startups, aging, and sustainability. And here just a few flashbacks from the past. Connecting is really key here on governmental level, here on university level, and and this also on industry side. So basically, being in the Kansai region in our position, it's possible really to go out and meet presidents and innovation teams of big corporates. So this is what we do because we need to connect. So this is a small glimpse. So the last year we had 80 activities and delegations. And so this is just the tip of the iceberg. One is Sushi Tech, or we do alumni events, or we have new energy days just recently. But we also do every year a Davos WEF debriefing here. So we are almost the only ones among the Swiss representatives that does a Davos debriefing. Yeah, and so we also created a diplomatic circle 3 years ago. And with the diplomatic circle, we visited Keihanna several times. Also here at the KYOTO Research Park. So we are extremely happy actually to be active in this region. And I mean, for us, it's also very important to put Kansai on the map, so to say. Yeah, so this weekend, STS Forum is starting. So that's one thing. I have to say I'm joining there since 2003, since the beginning. I'm a big fan of this, and definitely it's like a homecoming every year. And in this regard, first time this year, we have a roadshow of startups. So actually we start at STS Forum with pitching during the STS Forum. And then we go to Osaka, to Yokohama, to Tokyo, so various areas. So that's something new. So we have a group of 5 startups that we want to go through Japan and show what Japan can offer. Yeah, needless to say, we have the World Expo. And with the World Expo, the Swiss Pavilion. And we are deeply connected with the Swiss Pavilion, and we talk science, and mostly in the field of life, planet, and augmented human. And in augmented human is about AI, quantum computer, robots, and so on. So we are a small team, so please reach out and connect with us. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Felix. So the next speaker is Dr. Wael from Egypt and MENA. He just arrived on time. That's great. Okay.
Very smart. Thank you so much, ATR, Dr. Suzuki, for inviting me to this amazing, wonderful event. I love the energy out there. I'm Wael ELDESOUKI, as Dr. Suzuki said. I'm the director of Entrepreneurship Center at the Arab Academy. And the academy is, I just want to give you a quick brief about our university. It's one of the leading in the MENA region. It's affiliated to the League of Arab States. It was established back in the 70s, 1973, specialized in maritime education back then, and then expanded to other degrees, engineering, computer science, AI. We have a focused college on artificial intelligence, business, logistics, media, all disciplines, undergraduate, postgraduate, PhD, you name it. And we have 7 campuses all over the country. in Alexandria, Cairo, Alamein City, Aswan, so from north to south. Non-profit organization because we're affiliated to the League of Arab States, yet our university is one of the most expensive in terms of tuition fees, and this is very exciting because we charge the students and we invest every single dollar we get in innovation, in expansions, and so on, in quality education. This is for the university. For the Entrepreneurship Center, it was established 10 years ago, early 2015, and this is what we call our implementation strategy matrix. We have several programs for students, for youth, and for startups, and the different levels of maturity. So we have programs for students in the intention phase or idea phase, and we have other programs for scale-up companies. So we connect them with research centers, with investors, with VC funds, and so on. We have a couple of accelerators. One of our key acceleration programs is the Supply Chain Accelerator, the first in the region that focus on supply chain and logistics, because this industry is really important and scaling all over the world, especially with crises like COVID and other crises. Logistics is always important. And we support scale-ups in this particular, in the shipping industry, warehousing, last mile delivery, and so on. We also have another tech acceleration program, Rally Accelerate, where we support startups in different tech verticals like fintech, health tech, prop tech, deep tech as well. And two things, in internationalization, so access to international partners like ATR, so helping the startups to scale outside of the MENA region. So we have partners in Japan, in China, in Germany, in the United States, and so on. And the second thing is access to VC funds. So we have more than 30 venture capital fund partners in the program. So they look at our startups and give them investment opportunity. And several startups, I mean, when it comes to investments rounds. We also have some incubation programs. One is focused on tourism. Another incubation program is focused on agribusiness. And we have an incubator focused on people with disability. So founders who has a kind of physical disability, we support them as well. We also have a full ecosystem targeting our students, because it's not easy to engage undergraduate students with entrepreneurship and innovation, and to encourage them doing their own business. It's quite challenging. So we have the largest competition in the country for the students, the Rally competition, where we support all our students and students of 35 other universities all over the country in Egypt. We had the regional edition of the Arab Rally. So the first Arab Rally was held in Bahrain, 2019, in the Kingdom of Bahrain. And the second Arab Rally was in Dubai, Dubai EXPO 2022. We also have many other activities for the students, like education, student society, all over the universities that we work with, and so on. Most recently, we launched a program for entrepreneurship enablers, entrepreneurship center managers, entrepreneurship incubator managers, accelerator managers, and so on. And this program was launched at the main premises of the League of Arab States 2023. And we worked with more than 30 universities all over the country to build their entrepreneurship programs, centers, incubators, and ecosystem in general. And we had the Ripple Summit last month in Alexandria. The first one focused on entrepreneurship enablers in general. So diversity of sharing best practices, how to run an innovation hub, an incubator, science park, accelerator. This kind of content is not really common. It's like it's always important to have this kind of peer-to-peer learning and sharing best practices from different countries. So this is in brief about what we're doing at the Center of Entrepreneurship. And we're blessed that we have a full-time team of 26 full-timers, diversity of backgrounds, engineering, computer science, logistics, business, and so on. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Wael. Just I'd like to add one thing. I attended actually Ripple Summit this year. and select one startup to our batch 12. So that's really a good thing for us. Thank you. So the last speaker is coming from a different field, in investors field. So Mr. Mathiasen, so please let us know what you are doing.
Sure. First of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm going to keep my introduction short because my experience is not as deep as that of my fellow friends on the panel, but hopefully it could be rather complementary. So I've spent the last 13 years of my life working with startups in one way or another. First as a founder in Sweden, then as a startup consultant in Ireland, then as a banker in Hong Kong, and finally 5 years ago, I moved from Hong Kong to Stockholm, where I joined Katalysen Ventures as COO. So I'm currently wearing two hats, where one of my hats is serving as COO at Katalysen Ventures. Now, Katalysen Ventures is a Swedish-Swiss investment company with a focus on early-stage companies, supporting early-stage companies, B2B companies, often biotech, often but not always. The last 2 years, I've been exploring if it would make sense to add a third leg to Katalysen Ventures, a third bridge, a third node. So currently we're connecting Stockholm with Geneva. And I think it might make a lot of sense to add Kansai to that mix, to that network. So Stockholm, Geneva, Kansai. The result of that work is a project called SKB. And SKB is short for Shokubai, which is the same as Katalysen, catalyst. And it's in that work that I've gotten to know ATR. ATR and the KGAP program have been most supportive of our efforts here in Kansai. And hopefully I can draw upon some of those experiences of trying to build SKB to offer you a very honest and relatively fresh perspective on some of the challenges here, and most importantly, the opportunities, given my outside perspective. So thank you for having me.
So now our audience know what we are, who are we are, and so start discussion. So as I said, I'm playing a various types of role as a manager or director of ATL, as well as a kind of a founder of global innovation ecosystem. And also as a platformer, we are connecting a startup coming from all over the world to Japanese companies. So we have now six panelists, but they are divided into three, I would say. There are two founders, like Professor Cheng and Professor Wael, and maybe Melanie-san and SHIOZAKI-san is managing big organizations. And Dr. MOESNER-san is a kind of connector, having a very strong background. So let me first ask the difficulty of founders, because I had very difficult time to start this type of global innovation network. I was blamed many times why you do such things. So I would like to ask, Professor Cheng, when you start incubation program, what's the reaction of other professors or in your university?
I have to say that many professors, they file patents, but they consider patents as publications. So they never translate their knowledge into products. So this is very difficult. But I mean, our innovation headquarters, we are obligated to translate their knowledge into products. So most of professors, they don't want to have startups. Then we kind of, match up with students to have startups, or we transfer their technology to companies. But after some professors, they do get a lot of money from technology transfer. Now it's booming now. All the professors think it's good to have a technology transfer money. For example, myself, I transfer my technology to pharmaceutical company. I make at least few million US dollars from my projects. So now I would say this initially people did not think, I would say professors did not think they can make money from their research. They find out now it's okay. And I would say government play a very important role. Initially, I think like Japan, I would say government stop professor to make money, okay? They think it's not good to have money as a professor. Now it's totally different. Now we learn from Canada, from Swiss. It's good and it's valuable to have money, okay? So this is the biggest part, I mean the most difficult one, to change the ideas of professors and government. So we took a lot of time to communicate with government and university professor. So I would say communication is very important. So for example, like Suzuki-san and Maki, we stimulate each other from those conversations.
Okay, thank you very much. But I'd like to ask one more thing, Professor Cheng. Once you said to me that, of course, there is a competition between universities in Taiwan.
Yeah.
So you, to take a best positioning in Taiwan universities, you start focusing on not only research and science and research and development, but also innovation.
Yeah.
Is it right? Maybe to compete with Taiwan University and Tsinghua University or something like that.
I have to say that all the professors, they have limited ability. So I would say alliance is very important. For example, I have professor may have some specific technology, but they cannot provide total solution. So that's why we prefer to form alliance. We think the whole Taiwan is a single universities. So we match up with different professors from different universities. So, I mean, for example, like Intel, when they want to have a technology, they prefer to have a total solution. They came to us, but they figured it out, we cannot provide, total solution for them. Then we find out professors from different universities. So basically, we packaging our patents and sell it to Intel. But I think this kind of system should not be limited in Taiwan. We can work with the Swiss and Egypt, Canada together. In this case, all of us can make more money from this kind of package. So I would say globalization is very important. So we should work together because, as you know, those companies make a lot of money. They should, donate to university. So this is the concept. I think alliance is very important, not only for domestic university, but also for international university. Packaging is very important, so we rely on ATR play a role for this.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. Thank you. So, Dr. Wael, I heard a story yesterday, but please share your story. How you had a tough time to start this type of business.
Yes, it was quite challenging. We started 2015, and I've been working with the university as a faculty member since 2001, so almost 20-something years ago now. I used to receive some requests from industry, from corporates, that we want to hire students as interns, or from startups that they want co-founders, from postgraduate students, masters or PhD students, and so on. So we have a massive pool of talents as undergraduate or postgraduate students. That's why I proposed to the university president that a concept for an entrepreneurship center with a highlight of a plan and impact, and he immediately accepted. And this where the challenges started. Because, the university president, he is a true believer of entrepreneurship, but most of other management, if this is not recorded, we're not really into this kind of massive change. What is the need for having an entrepreneurship center? We have our faculties, we have our top management, we have our students, we have our impact. There is no need for having such a thing. And now, after 7 or 8 years, it changed dramatically. Every single college, they want to have an entrepreneurship program, an entrepreneurship component within their college, within their program, within their degree. And there are several partnerships with the colleges in different disciplines to establish a sector-focused incubation program, a sector-focused competition, a sector-focused event on entrepreneurship related to their degree. But this was not the case. So we had to deal with politics for many years until it happened. And politics means resources, means budget, means different things. But luckily, when we started, we worked with an American consultant to set our strategy in the beginning, 2015. And she was advising the Global Entrepreneurship Network in the United States, Cheng Global. She's an advisor to Cheng Global. And we had a very clear vision on where to go, what kind of structure, organizational structure and hierarchy that is needed, what kind of budget that we want for the next 5 years. And I asked the university, I want the budget for the first 2 years, and after that, we will manage our own funds. We don't need any. So when the university realized that we have a clear vision, clear programs, clear structure, and clear budget, and some good promise that after 2 years we don't want a budget anymore, and it happened. And now, I mean, we exceeded the plans in terms of target, in terms of spending on events and activities, in terms of programs that we were planning to launch. But yes, we had many challenges because, as Professor was saying, universities are amazing in research, amazing in education, but maybe entrepreneurship is something extracurricular outside of the classroom. So it's not the common way it is done. So that's why we may have some challenges in starting this kind of activities, and until now in many other universities. So yes.
Okay, thank you very much. So the next question is to Melanie-san, Professor SHIOZAKI. I was working in the biggest company in Japan, NTT, and to do something new in the big organization, there is another challenge. Okay, so I want to know the challenges in NLC and universities, national university, and for instance, okay, Melanie-san, so the innovation is a kind of DNA from the beginning, or you overcome the kind of challenge in NLC to start innovation other than R&D?
Hey, thank you. Absolutely. We've just launched our new strategy at the National Research Council, and the top header is business innovation. Okay, so certainly for us, for our researchers, and clearly for our work in business innovation, we are starting from that frame where we want to have an early focus on thinking about the outcomes and ensuring that what we're developing will eventually find its way to doesn't necessarily need to be commercialization, but at a minimum deployment, so that we're seeing the value of our investment. But there is a second challenge that I might focus on today when I think about our companies and the support that we provide to our companies, because in Canada we're very strong in startups, and we have significant early venture capital funding to bring to these startups, but we struggle on scaling a lot of our startups, and quite often we lose them before they reach significant funding to our neighbors to the south and elsewhere. And so with this, one of the things we have done, because we have the innovation agency within our organization and almost 300 people whose job it is coming out of industry just to work with CEOs of SMEs to help them grow, and we talk to 10,000 a year, and we fund about 3,500 a year. And that's non-diluted funding that we provide essentially for labor. Okay, so trying to build highly qualified personnel, bring them through. But the big challenge we kept seeing was market access, global value chain access, access to multinationals who own those paths to market. And so probably about 12 years ago, we started to really engage in co-innovation with international partners. And that co-innovation, thinking about adapting, validating, and co-innovating together with partners in the supply chain is a really interesting way to open a door early on for a startup, for an SME, to be part of those global value chains and part of the distribution and part of the open innovation for large firms, and to do so before selling to them. But because they're engaging at that co-innovation stage, they're able to do something which is really special, which is to build trust, which is to build market intelligence, technical intelligence, and be ready for those networks and those sales to come. So with that, we're now doing co-innovation programs bilaterally with a number of economies and also through what's called the Eureka Network. That network, which is actually 10 years in, being chaired this year, jointly with Canada and Germany, will be taken on next year by Switzerland, just to say. And of course, my colleagues from Japan and from Taiwan are also participating in Global Stars with Eureka as well. But it's a very powerful network because the innovation agencies come together and they smooth the way to make it easier for these companies to work together. And in a time where we're worried about cybersecurity, we're worried about intellectual property, we're worried about supply chains, trusted partnerships, it's quite a powerful tool. And having now done 300 to 350 of these projects with partners internationally, what we have seen is the companies that participate are growing faster. It's very intuitive when you think about it, but we have got the evidence. They're growing faster. They're building relationships which they're sustaining, right, which is to help them for the future. And it's certainly something that we think is an interesting next step. Particularly in Canada, where so much of the focus is on North America, to help companies to bridge into other economies. So I think for us, that's an area that's quite interesting, and I hope to touch on it later, but part of our relationship here with ATR. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Professor SHIOZAKI, so you are president of a university, national university. So how do you manage the mentality or mindset of the professors in your university?
Thank you. I think, probably there are two major issues. One is, what Dr. Cheng, already touched on, this mindset of, academic researchers. So traditionally, each researcher has been working on or pursuing particular interest in their relatively limited field, and they are making discoveries or some inventions, but those are not really innovation that have really impact on the society or industry. So I think as Professor Cheng said, single discovery or invention cannot provide solution. So we have to really need to have some mechanism to connect or combine or packaging those discoveries or inventions to make a better real innovation or solution to the societal problems. And traditionally, academic institutions like universities don't have that mechanism. So we are at times trying to make such kind of like connections among particularly young researchers. We give them like a small seed fund, and with that money, we ask them to come together, and we set up like small groups, and they are all coming from different fields, and they talk to each other, introduce themselves, and try to develop a new research proposal in combination of multiple different fields, and that has been working very interesting in a way. And we are expecting some unexpected output from that. And the second issue is mostly related to the fact that we are a national university. And in Japan, national universities have been supported by the Ministry of Education, and university funding has been really flat, despite the fact that very acute inflation, particularly like energy cost and other things. So flat funding means actually reducing financial support from the government. And we are struggling to provide a good research environment to faculty members and researchers because of the funding limitation. And that's something we cannot really control, for ourselves. I mean, even, university president of national universities have been discussing and asking for more support from the government. But that's, something that we cannot really control. And right now, many universities are trying to respond to that kind of situation by reducing the number of faculty members and researchers. And that's really sad because, that kind of situation will eventually lead to reduced research power and reduced inventions from universities. So that's something, where we are really struggling right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the Felix-san, okay. So once you said to me, that innovation education in Japan is behind the 30 years of what you have in Switzerland. Yeah, and also, no? Okay, my 10 years, okay, whatever. And also you said the surviving rate of Switzerland startup is very high. I forget the number, over 90% in 7 years. Okay, please let us explain how you educate young guys in innovation and why your startups are so surviving and in longer period of time.
Thank you very much. Yes, the 30 years, actually, it's an interesting number. But basically, there's even another number that is 50 years. And basically, when you look how long does it take to create an environmental environment? So look at the example of Boston. It was heavily influenced by the moon landing program at that time, or in California. So it did not arrive in 10 years or in fewer years. So it literally took 50 years. I mean, to get on this level. So this is a little bit what I meant, because also in Switzerland, it's not 10 years. We already invest 30 years in creating this, to bring science to market. I mean, really to, give this entrepreneurial virus to the students, and the entrepreneurial virus actually to the professors who actually give this virus to the students, hopefully. So this, I think, is really a key. And but once again, it didn't take only a couple of years. It's really 30 years, and it's quite long. But the other area, I think, what you touched upon is the innovation. So just this weekend, the latest Global Innovation Index came out, and we are since 14 years #1. And when you look at the rank, it's a little bit boring on top. But when looking in it, why it is, my own interpretation of it is, you need to have a solid education. Because education, it's not, only for the elite. That's not enough. Because you have to give a solid education for everyone. Because at the end, it's a society that actually lifts the innovation, the force, the power of innovation lies in the society. So you have to find a way how to give the education to everyone. So I give you another secret. In Switzerland, only 25% of the young generation goes to university. 25%. So the rest does apprenticeship. And with the apprenticeship, they contribute to society. And they contribute to innovation. So that's a little bit the trick behind it. But it took me also 20 years to realize that actually there is this very strong link and very important link. Coming to your question about the 90% survival rate of startups within the first 7 years, it's true. So all over Switzerland, so the average is over 80% of the startups. But we have one university, so it's the MIT of Europe, so it's the ETH Zurich. So they actually produce 34 startups per year. And the average survival rate is 92%. And for us, it's interesting, when I was in Boston, everyone says, that's not a good thing. And yeah, but it's also right in a way. I think you have to try new things immediately. So it fails, you try something new. I think this is also important. On the other hand, now being in Japan, I feel super relaxed because Japanese are not taking risks. And if you come with a startup that has a survival rate of 92%, and you introduce them to companies, you introduce them to CVCs, to VCs, in Japan, I really feel more relaxed because I can say this startup actually is a good investment because certainly it will be around after 7 years. And so how can this happen? So maybe the reason is slightly similar as in Japan. The Swiss people don't like to take risk. And so they only create the startup when they're really sure. And so that's maybe the simple answer behind it.
Thank you very much. So, Tobias-san, you are also trying to build up a new venture capital fund to invest deep tech startup in Kansai area. So I think you have now a very big challenge to realize this idea. So please tell us.
No, gladly. And I just want to add an aspect to what Felix just said that I think is interesting. We speak a lot about the importance of companies surviving, but an economy is an ecosystem, and in a healthy ecosystem there is both birth and death. And in an economy that's not growing that fast, you could look at it maybe as a zero-sum game, where if companies are not able to die, there are limited resources for new companies to be born out of. In a sense, startup compost, I've heard it referred to. And there's an interesting case study in Finland, which we mentioned yesterday at the dinner, where, of course, a lot of people know about Nokia. They were the world's largest cell phone company for a long time, employed tens of thousands of engineers. But for various reasons, Nokia fell behind, and eventually the company was largely shut down. And then you had 30,000 engineers asking, what am I going to do now? And a lot of those people, they had the knowledge, the talent, and government support to create startups. So Nokia was a company a lot of people were proud of, a proud oak that fell over. And from that oak, thousands and thousands of new startups were born. And I am tempted to think that I do think for Japan to achieve a healthy long-term ecosystem, some of these oaks, we will have to find a way for some of these oaks to come down in a way that creates a lot more long-term value than it creates short-term disruption. So I just wanted to add that aspect of both birth and death. Are very important, both sides. And this is one of the reasons I came to Japan, and I've been coming here a lot the last 2 years. I've spent about half my time here this year. And the reason Katalysen Ventures is looking for ways to invest in the Japanese startup ecosystem, it's because we see huge potential. If I remember correctly, today only about 2% of global venture capital is actually invested in Japan. The other 98% are outside of Japan, and unfortunately, I think most Japanese startups struggle to access those 98%. If you're a London-based startup, you're probably able to access 70% of global venture capital. That's just a guess. But that's a huge opportunity. And what I think is missing is really the global experience and the mindset that can allow an entrepreneur to talk to global investors, raise money from global investors. I've spent a lot of time thinking about why it's like this. One of the reasons, for a long time I was blaming Japanese VCs. I would look at Japanese VCs and I would see that, Japanese VC investors, why are they taking so little risk? Why are they encouraging Japanese startup founders to focus on the Tokyo Stock Exchange? Because if you're focusing on an IPO in Tokyo, you don't have to learn English, probably. You don't have to implement a global strategy. You don't have to go through all that pain. It's outside of your strategy. And for a long time, I blamed the VC investors. But then I got to know them much better. I would go for drinks with them. And after a few drinks, they would always open up. And they would all say the same thing. That our investors, so the people putting money into the VC investor, we call these LPs. Most Japanese LPs are often strategic LPs, strategic investors. They're not primarily investing money to get more money back. They are investing money to achieve strategic goals, to find innovation, M&A targets. Maybe they want the bank to look good in PR. Look, we're supporting young people. But to actually, the return expectation is very low. So what these VCs tell me is, well, as long as we double the money, or as long as we don't lose the money, the LP will give us more money. And what do you do if you, because of course you want to keep receiving money to keep your job. If you're a VC, you're going to implement a 2x strategy, or if I call it a Mount Fuji strategy. They're going to make a plan to climb Mount Fuji and have the highest chance of success at doing so. They're not going to build a Mount Everest strategy, which involves a lot more risk than climbing Mount Fuji, but also a lot greater reward if you succeed. And this relates to why I think Kansai is so interesting. Because I do feel that there is an established way of thinking and doing things in Tokyo. I feel, as an outsider, I can maybe share this thinking more easily. But in Tokyo, I very much feel like there is a framework in place, there is a box. You're expected to act within that box. When I'm in Kansai, I don't feel that's the case. So I feel great culture is one of the reasons I think Kansai is an interesting place to be. There is a culture of entrepreneurship here. People, I think, dare to be a little bit more crazy. I was visiting Osaka University recently to meet with a cancer researcher from Osaka, and he told me that the easiest way to tell if someone is from Osaka is to pretend to shoot them like this. And if the person is from Osaka, they're going to play along like an actor. They're more dramatic. They're not so worried about what other people think. But if the person is from Tokyo, they might feel very awkward. How do I act in this situation? So I just think Kansai culture lends itself to risk-taking. I think there are great partners here. ATR is a good example. The reason I think there are great partners relates to another trend in Japan, which I think you could call sort of a brain drain to Tokyo. I think a lot of cities are struggling with young people, smart people moving to Tokyo, not necessarily because they want to live in Tokyo, but because that's where there are investors and supporters and such. This means that if I go to Tokyo, that people think, nice, one more investor, welcome. If I come to Kansai, I'm received as a much more strategic partner to the Kansai region. So it's easier for me to find partners here, which I think is really important. Two more quick things. I think there is great tech here, especially within 3 areas that I think have a lot of long-term relevance. The first is the intersection of AI and robotics. There's a long history here of both robotics in, say, Osaka, and you have supercomputers in Kobe. And I'm sure all of this research is also happening here at Keihana. Sustainable healthcare. I also see a lot of healthcare innovation on the healthcare optimization side of things. And of course, all countries are going to struggle with an aging population. So there's deep knowledge here as well. And then lastly, climate tech. And Here we might not call it climate tech. We might say we are optimizing supply chains. But really, it's different sides of the same coin. If you can achieve the same result with fewer inputs, that can be sustainability. So I see a lot of knowledge here that could be labeled sustainability. Lastly, I think the timing is great to try to do something in Kansai. Short term, because the EXPO means that certain important partners on prefecture level, city level, are maybe a little bit faster than they would be a normal year. But I also just believe in Japan and in Kansai long term. I think the shift we're seeing away from China will give Japan increased relevance as the world's third largest democratic market. And I genuinely think that Japan will become a hub of sort of successful deep tech startups. That's why I'm here right now. I want to be here at the beginning of that transformation. So great partners, great tech, great culture, and I think great timing. That's why Kansai is the go-to place. Of course, there are lots of challenges in doing this, but I choose to focus on the opportunity, because otherwise one would go mad.
Okay. Yeah, glad to hear that. Yes. So we have only 10 minutes remaining. So just a quick reply. So we are every day said Japan is declining in terms of population and in terms of economy. But how do you look at Japanese market in innovation or R&D? So I think I'd like to start with Dr. Wael. How your startup in Egypt and MENA looking at Japanese market or Japanese innovation?
Yes, this is a very good question, because basically the perception of made in Japan is on the top. I mean, everyone trusts made in Japan in terms of electronics, robotics, technology, deep tech, cars, of course. And this has been the case for 30 years or something, and until now. Regardless of number of innovations, but made in Japan, the country of origin effect is really very positive. This is in terms of trusting the Japanese industry, trusting the Japanese technology. When it comes to startups, maybe because of the language barriers, very few startups thought of scaling to the Japanese market. Usually they think of scaling to the MENA region, Europe, USA, because they all speak English or Arabic, but the Japanese, it's not the case. But surprisingly, when we announced our partnership with ATR, we found many startups that really want to scale in Japan and to penetrate or to approach the Japanese market. And on my way to the airport from Egypt to Osaka, I found an Egyptian friend. I know him for 13 years now. And by coincidence, I met him in Abu Dhabi airport, and I realized that he has his own business here in Japan, in Tokyo, for 5 years now. And before Tokyo, he had his business in KYOTO for 12 years. So it is very possible. People would love, because even the Japanese, I would like to echo what you're saying, the culture is really very positive, appreciated from Egyptian startups, from Egyptians as well. So in terms of culture, in terms of lifestyle, in terms of trusting technology, in terms of market, it would be really positive. So yes, definitely. But it needs to build this momentum. So more partnerships, more activities, more engagement, more attraction to startups. I'm sure that this would result in more companies come here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so the same question to Felix. How Switzerland startups looking at Japanese market and innovation?
I only can say great. Actually, Switzerland is a very small market, so that means the startups are born global. So that's the easiest explanation of it. Obviously, I mean, it's easiest to go to Germany, UK, US, but in Japan, for example, what you have is Yeah, it's you have actually the how's it called in English? You have the laws, the regulations that are in place, so startups feel safe when they come to Japan in this sense. But on the other hand, the main challenges are the language, because it's not so easy to tap into, of course, because you need to find the right environment where you feel comfortable to set up. So that's definitely one. An established network, what you need to have depending on the area where your startup is active at. And of course also to be able to tap into ways how to make the regulations work for you. I mean, as a startup, and especially when you're in the biotech field, in regenerative medicine, for example, it's sometimes very hard to get through clinical trials in another country. It's not only in Japan, it's everywhere, it's quite tough. But here the hurdle is even higher because of the language. So you need to have strong partners. And I guess, and I think ATR is in this sense a very good partner, because you also provide a POC environment, so that investors, for example, in Japan could quickly also see that actually it works, the product what you would like to introduce into the Japanese market. So just to give you one number again, since you remember numbers very well. Last year we introduced and helped 54 Swiss startups to come to Japan. So it's in 1 year. So 54, and physically it's around 20 who came, but all of them wanted to have information how to succeed when I come to Japan. And I'm also extremely happy that we have Illumicell AG is here, present over there, very active, and also has an origin in Switzerland, but it's a startup that is based in Boston. So we have a double heart, a Swiss Boston heart. And also was here last year, very successful.
Thank you very much. So Melanie-san, we have actually accepted internships and professors from your country to ATR, but how your startups are looking at the Japanese market?
So maybe I will just start to say that for NRC as a whole, when we looked at Japan and saw the opportunities and the challenges that have been raised already, we felt it was very important for us to have a local presence. Okay, so I'm very pleased to say we do have a local presence in Japan. That's Sasaki-san here, and we have also recruited somebody who understands and knows Japan and speaks the language to work with us in Canada. So my colleague is also here, and of course we have our industrial technology advisors who in Canada, again, we are very lucky in Canada because we have such a mix of different people with different skills and different backgrounds. So we do actually have some of our advisors who are able to communicate and work closely in Japan. So I think that was really critical for us. I think overall, it's always challenging for a startup to enter a new market. We're sitting right beside the United States, common language, common-ish culture, very easy for companies to move versus coming to Japan where there are these additional barriers. So for us, working together with you, ATR has been very important, and then working very closely with our advisors to help companies come to do the pitch and to engage. And KGAP, the program, has been very, very valuable to us in doing that. And I do understand we have our Canadian firm here today, which is also very exciting. So, and we have had to date 15 projects for Canadian companies together with you. So I think we're starting to overcome some of those barriers, increase understanding, and open the doors for more in the future. So thank you.
Thank you very much. So the same question to Professor Chang. We are very close geographically. So it might more easier, I think, for your startup to come to Japan.
Yeah, Actually, I have two suggestions. One, I have many Japanese friends. They always ask for perfectness. They forget about the speed. So, you don't have to ask for perfect. Speed is very important. So, innovation, if you want to push innovation, speed is very important. So don't ask for 100% perfectness. Sometimes speed is very important. Secondly is communication. Because Japan got sizable market, if you want to aim for scaling, you have to ask for big market. But I find out most of Japanese, they only aim for domestic market. So communication is very important, but I find out your young generation are good now. They know how to communicate. They can use English to communicate. Because I would say communication is very important. After you know how to communicate, and I also find that most of Japanese, they don't want to become leader. This is very important. I think if you go to Canada or go to Swiss or United States, all of them want to become leaders. In old days, Taiwan and Japan, they don't want to become leader. So I believe communication and leadership, we have to train, our students to become leader in the world.
Thank you very much. So we need to finish this session by asking one question to Professor SHIOZAKI. Okay? You have a very good student, many students. But newspaper and TV said young talents in Japan is losing interest in overseas countries. So is there any young talents looking for business outside Japan in your student? Sorry, difficult question.
Well, I think this panel discussion has really brought up very strong point that people all over the world have to communicate and learn each other, and that's something we really need to emphasize to our young generation in Japan. And at NICE we have as I mentioned earlier, about 5% of students are international, and they are actually bringing in very different cultures to Japanese young students. And now those Japanese students are also getting more interest in other countries through their international colleagues. And also this panel discussion, we just heard that very encouraging comments about Japan, about Kansai. Well, some of them may have been a little diplomatic, but anyway, we are really encouraged, and because outside of perspective is bringing in different ways to look things differently, and that's something we really want to have our students, young generations, to know. And one way to make it happen is more interactions of young generations or young students with people from different countries, and having more international students or more international researchers visiting Japan, or this kind of international network built up by Suzuki-san and ATR. This is it's going to be a very good platform to expose young people to wider global field. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So because we signed a MOU today with NICE and ATR, so we utilize this MOU to expose your young talents all over the world. Okay, so we need to finish the session by saying that the collaboration is, I think, the key factor to make deep tech innovations successful. So please please working together. Okay, thank you very much for your kind attention. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, this was a very, very rich discussion was the valuable insight. Thank you so much. And again, please give a big round of applause to all the panelists and the moderator from the world. They are leading the innovation and the entrepreneurship in the world. Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you.